A massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, especially these days. 8 different settings, adjustable intensity, plus it's heated, and it just feels so good. Yes, a massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, but when it can come with a car, suddenly it seems quite practical. The all-new 2025 Volkswagen Tiguan, packed with premium features like available massaging front seats, it only feels extravagant.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
And away we go. Episode 1095 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Monday, June 16th, 2025. And a big-time congratulations, a big-time salute to the DC Defenders. They have won the United Football League Championship, a 58-34 win over the Michigan Panthers at the Dome at America's Center in St. Louis on Saturday night in the 2025 UFL Championship game. Defenders quarterback Jordan Ta'amu was named a 2025 UFL Championship MVP. The Defenders are UFL champions despite coaching chaos. Not long ago, their previous head coach, Reggie Barlow, he left the Defenders less than a week before the 2025 regular season started. This to take the head coaching job at Tennessee State. Barlow this past March 23rd was named Tennessee State head coach. The Defenders promoted quarterbacks coach Shannon Harris to interim head coach, and he this past Thursday morning was named UFL Coach of the Year. Also, Greg Williams, as in Greg Double G Williams, who was the Redskins assistant head coach in charge of defense for the 2004 through 2007 NFL seasons. He in April left his job as Defenders defensive coordinator to become Tennessee State's defensive coordinator. That hiring was announced on April 11th. His son, Blake Williams, was promoted from Defenders defensive line coach to Defenders defensive coordinator, and yet despite all of this, the Defenders are UFL champions. By the way, Jordan Ta'amu, he was on the Washington football team's practice squad in December 2021, and how about this? So the team starting quarterback at the time was Taylor Heineke. Heineke famously spent time with the XFL's St. Louis Battlehawks in 2020, but he wasn't even their starting quarterback during his time with them. Who was their starting quarterback during that time? Jordan Ta'amu. Funny how life works. Also, the Michigan Panthers, their head coach is Mike Nolan, who was the Skins defensive coordinator for the 1997 through 1999 seasons. And the Panthers quarterback is Bryce Perkins, who played for the University of Virginia in the 2018 and 2019 seasons. And Perkins, this past Friday afternoon, was named MVP for the UFL's 2025 regular season. Hello and welcome to this Monday installment of the Al Galdi podcast. We can only hope that the Commanders follow in the footsteps of the Defenders and win a championship this coming season. Next segment, a special guest, NFL writer Tyler Dunne of GoLongTD.com, for which he has written a very good piece on Commanders offensive coordinator Kliff Kingsbury. June 9th, headline quote on Kliff Kingsbury's magic touch and the separation of reality and perception. There's always more to a coach than what we think, end quote. Tyler has some really good insight on Kingsbury's background and what makes him tick, including Kingsbury being influenced by his time as a quarterback for the New England Patriots under head coach Bill Belichick, why Kingsbury was smart to not take an NFL head coaching job this offseason, why Kingsbury could thrive in his second stint as an NFL head coach, and why Dunne is bullish on the Commanders in the 2025 season. NFL writer Tyler Dunne of GoLongTD.com. Next segment with really terrific perspective on Kliff Kingsbury. Also on the show, I'll talk Nationals and Orioles, two teams that had two very different weekends. The Nats, they over the weekend got swept in 3 games against the National League East worst Miami Marlins at Nationals Park. The Nats in MLB's 2025 regular season now are 11 games below 500, 30-41, and we over the weekend had controversial comments from Nats manager Davey Martinez, comments that got national attention. I have a lot to say about what Martinez had to say. I have a lot to say about the state of the Nats rebuild. The O's, they over the weekend swept 3 games against the Los Angeles Angels at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. The O's now are 14-6 over their last 20 games. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me, the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Email from Dr. CCB on something that we believe will be in effect for the Commanders' next stadium, personal seat licenses, PSLs. One of the great costs of being a sports fan. A personal seat license, a PSL, is a one-time payment that grants you the right to purchase season tickets in a stadium or an arena. Think about the concept. You are paying for the right to pay. That's what a PSL is. It is a payment for the right to give another payment, writes Dr. CCB. As a current season ticket holder, I know that we are moving towards the personal seat licenses. Can you explain to me how this works? Is this a one-time fee that we pay, or is the fee annual? And I wonder, how does the team determine the PSL cost? Any guidance that you could provide would be most helpful. Hashtag HTTS. Thank you for the email, Dr. CCB. A PSL is a one-time payment, not something that you pay every year. So there's some good news. The cost of a PSL depends on the season tickets that you buy. So the better the seat, the higher the PSL. Now, the Baltimore Ravens say that PSL stands for permanent seat license, not personal seat license. So I guess the definition of the acronym can vary, but here's how the Ravens on their website describe the phenomenon that is the PSL. Quote, PSL stands for permanent seat license. This license is a one-time purchase that allows the following: guaranteed rights to buy season tickets every year for your location, quality time with friends, family, or coworkers at every Ravens home game, ability to gain PSL rewards while also having access to our outstanding customer service team year-round, end quote. So there you go, Dr. CCB. The potential for PSL rewards should you pay for a PSL for the Commanders' next stadium. So hope that helps. Speaking of buying, I recently bought a car, and I had a great experience buying that new car, a silver 2025 Toyota Corolla Cross at Toyota Fitzgerald in Gaithersburg, Maryland. And thanks to the guy who sold me the car, vehicle consultant Anthony Rosario. Anthony is a great guy, big sports fan, lifelong Redskins / Washington football team / Commanders fan. He has a great demeanor about him, very informed, but no pressure, no hassle, no games. You know, usually when you buy a car, you can't help but feel that you get like conned in some way, right? I was worried about having that feeling, but I in no way had that feeling. Anthony's a straight shooter. The process was smooth and painless and quick. I had my 4-year-old daughter with me. I did not have like 8 hours to spend at the dealership, and I did not have to spend 8 hours at the dealership. We closed the deal in right around 2 hours. And here's something special. Go to Toyota Fitzgerald in Gaithersburg, ask for Anthony Rosario, and immediately mention that Al Galdi sent you. You do that, you get $100 off your car purchase. Just like that, you save $100. If you need a new car, if you're thinking about getting a new car, and you want an honest, no gimmicks, feel-good experience, go to Toyota Fitzgerald in Gaithersburg, ask for Anthony Rosario, and right away mention that Al Galdi sent you. You do that, you get $100 off your car purchase. Hey, thank you to all of you who have given this podcast a 5-star rating and who have written nice reviews of the podcast. You on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify can both rate the podcast and write reviews. 5-star ratings are very much appreciated. Positive reviews are very much appreciated. I am very pleased to welcome to the Al Galdi podcast NFL writer Tyler Dunne. He has a terrific and very successful Substack, golongtd.com, which provides, quote, NFL long-form journalism, humanizing profiles, penetrating deep dives, columns, and podcasts that capture the spirit of the sport, end quote. And a recent piece on golongtd.com was on Kliff Kingsbury, who is entering his second season as Commanders' offensive coordinator, June 9th. Headline, quote, on Kliff Kingsbury's magic touch and the separation of reality and perception, there's always more to a coach than we think, end quote. You can follow Tyler on X at Ty Dunne, and Dunne is spelled D-U-N-N-E. Hey, Tyler, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Al. Thanks so much for having me on. And most importantly, thanks for juggling our schedules here. We've got baby number 3 coming in hot. So I appreciate your flexibility.
Oh, wow. Well, good luck with the incoming child. On to less pressing matters. Kliff Kingsbury. You and this piece on Kingsbury have a lot of really good anecdotes. So Kingsbury was Texas Tech head coach December 2012 to November 2018. He was Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes' collegiate head coach. Mahomes was the Texas Tech quarterback for the 2014 through 2016 seasons, who in the piece wrote, quote, Nick Shimanek backed up Patrick Mahomes before taking over as the starter. We chatted in 2020, and Shimanek couldn't help but steer that conversation about Mahomes back to Kingsbury. There's the obvious upside, the ability to relate to the modern athlete. Shimanek noted that the coach can talk about music, fashion. It was all a far, far cry from where the QB's collegiate career began at the University of Iowa. Kirk Ferentz was, quote, the exact opposite, end quote. Then came the surprise. Shimanek noted that Kingsbury is, quote, old school, end quote, where it matters most. He'd get to the Texas Tech facility at 3:30 a.m. each morning and wouldn't leave until 8:30 p.m. He wanted the other coaches to arrive by 5, so he'd stroll in an hour and a half earlier. The common sight was Kingsbury drenched in sweat from a full workout by 4:30 a.m. After this, he'd watch film, conduct meetings, go back to watch film by himself, conduct quarterback meetings, then return for a third round of film. End quote. What compelled you to write this piece about Kliff Kingsbury?
It's a good question, because I honestly feel like I should have recycled that anecdote from his old quarterback at Texas Tech a while back. You know, it just, the light bulbs didn't go off until this week. And by a while back, I mean, you know, when he gets fired by the Arizona Cardinals, goes off to Thailand, everybody's thinking of Kliff Kingsbury in a certain way. Oh, you know, defense has caught up to his X's and O's. Oh, he's not a quote-unquote leader of men. You know, his reputation was in a certain place at that point, like a lot of reputations are when a coach is fired. But I think that a person who knows Kliff Kingsbury best is that Nick Shimanek, former quarterback with the Red Raiders. He backed up Patrick Mahomes, and he took over as the starter. He's still close with Kliff Kingsbury. And we talked a while back. I mean, actually, that conversation with him was from 2020. I think we were talking about Mahomes, and he just kept going on all these different tangents when it came to Kliff Kingsbury. It's my long, rambling way of saying this is somebody who knew the real Kliff Kingsbury, and that is somebody who goes to the facility at 3:30 a.m., gets a workout in, studies film, goes to meetings, studies more film, goes to meetings, studies more film. He's on this constant quest for knowledge, that there's really more like Belichick to Kliff Kingsbury, more old school coaching to Kliff Kingsbury than anybody knew. And it surprised me then, but I guess just this week it's June football, and I'm reading up on the Washington Commanders, and it just kind of went off like, wait a minute. Like, he helped this rookie quarterback take the NFL by storm. I wonder why that is. Oh, he's a different coach than how he was portrayed previously.
You mentioned Bill Belichick. The New England Patriots, with Belichick as their head coach, drafted Kliff Kingsbury, took him in the 6th round of the 2003 NFL Draft out of Texas Tech. Kingsbury was a quarterback for Texas Tech for the 1999 through 2002 seasons. You in the piece wrote, quote, back in 2003, he was drafted by the New England Patriots in the 6th round and never sniffed the field his lone season with the club. Even then, he made his time count. He served as a pseudo-quality control coach, splicing up video all the time for Belichick and starter Tom Brady. He'd research what teams did on 3rd and 10 plus, 3rd and medium, 3rd and short. The Patriots won their 3rd of 6 Super Bowls, end quote. It sounds like Kingsbury, while a quarterback for Belichick, developed some Belichick-like tendencies.
Totally. And that's kind of what that Chimenick thought it came from, is that 1 year, right? If you're going to look at Pro Football Reference or Wikipedia or a media guide and you try to figure out who Kliff Kingsbury was as a player, you'd be like, oh, he was just there for a cup of coffee. They drafted him, and I think he landed on injured reserve, and then he moves on. But he really maximized his time with the greatest coach of all time, with the greatest quarterback of all time. And although maybe some of your listeners would say Joe Gibbs deserves to be in that discussion. I've heard that from time to time. One of the greatest coaches of all time. And yeah, that what you said is exactly true. Like, he was doing a hell of a lot more than just serving as this scout team quarterback, giving the starters some looks. Whether he was on injured reserve, off injured reserve. What I was told is, that entire year, he's splicing up film. He's basically, a GA in college, a quality control coach in the NFL, doing all of this film work then. So that's maybe when one of those early seeds was planted on just what kind of worker Kliff Kingsbury would be in the NFL. And that kind of gets to the whole point of separating fact from fiction, perception from reality, where we think that all these defenses caught up with this Arizona offense, with this Kingsbury offense, and this way he wants to play football isn't going to last. But it's just not true. I don't think it is. I mean, you saw last year, you get him with a quarterback who doesn't need a homework clause in his contract, a quarterback who, might be the future of the sport itself, who can do all of these magnificent things, who, oh, by the way, like, Al, is walking into the facility with Kliff at God knows what hour. I mean, he's going to work in a way that maybe a Kyler Murray, and hell, maybe a Caleb Williams is not willing to work. It's a perfect marriage. And I think that's what you saw. And that gives me confidence that it's not like defenses are all of a sudden just going to catch up to the Washington Commanders. Like, he's going to think 3 moves ahead. This is somebody who's looking up random plays from Bowling Green in search of an offensive innovation. College, pro, he's always on the hunt.
Were you surprised at how well Kliff Kingsbury's first season as Commanders offensive coordinator went?
Boy, not at all. I mean, I think that a lot of it is, like, I think we don't want to forget, like, the big picture too. Like, Dan Quinn is phenomenal, and God, I mean, you go back and look at all the counterfactuals. Who knows where the team is with Ben Johnson? Maybe Ben Johnson is the prince that is promised, and turns out to be a multi-coach of the year winner, and Chicago Bears are back, baby. All that's, I don't know. Like, it worked out perfect for the Washington Commanders, and I've chatted with a lot of these assistant coaches, Joe Witt Jr., Tavita Pritchard, Darryl Tapp, Anthony Lynn. I mean, you talk to everybody on that staff, and they just cannot say enough about the culture that Dan Quinn really created from day one, when they're not even talking about football. He didn't want his coaches talking to players at all about football. He wanted them to get to know these players as people. So it starts there, and that's what kind of makes it a perfect marriage, I think, with Kliff Kingsbury, is somebody who can live in those X's and O's, who can maximize a young quarterback, who knows how to manipulate the weapons at his disposal. Hell, give Bobby Johnson some credit, too, an offensive line coach who was, booted from Buffalo, booted from the New York Giants. What he was able to do in the run game is unbelievably significant. It was kind of a perfect storm, and it went all the way to the NFC Championship game. But yeah, not surprised, because I don't want to dump on Kyler Murray, because he is a special talent. I mean, there aren't many quarterbacks who can do the sort of things that he's able to, but maybe just isn't wired like a Jane Daniels, isn't wired like a Kliff Kingsbury. And I think that it really is a personality match there in D.C.
Kliff Kingsbury was the Arizona Cardinals head coach January 2019 to January 2023. He, as Cardinals head coach, had a regular season record of just 28-37-1. He, this past January, took himself out of the running for NFL head coaching jobs, even though he was perceived as a hot candidate. What'd you make of that?
Brilliant. How many times do we just see coaches, pounce at an opportunity prematurely? I mean, it happened to him, really. Like, he was with a team and with poor ownership. I think there were a lot of problems there with the Arizona Cardinals that we don't even see. And some of it's seen the light of day, but you're talking about one of the worst owners in sports there with Bidwell. And, you're the head coach kind of navigating through all that stuff. Like bad owners create bad teams some way, somehow. Hell, the Redskins football team Commanders have lived it for quite some time and have gotten out of that purgatory, out of that hell. That's the Cardinals in different ways. That's what they're dealing with. So, after living that and winning a lot of games that maybe they didn't even have business winning, I think that Kliff Kingsbury owes it to himself to take on a really good situation with great ownership and a talented quarterback who's also going to work insanely hard. He should be choosy, right? Like Kliff should absolutely pick the best possible job at the right time, because it's not like, you knock on wood, I guess, if you're a Commanders fan, it's not like the Washington Commanders are all of a sudden going to get figured out and Jane Daniels is going to hit this second-year wall where things just go south in epic, disastrous fashion. Like, this arrow is only pointing up in every conceivable way for this franchise, in my opinion. So why would you want to leave that for anything that isn't a fantastic opportunity? And we'll see what happens with Chicago. They did everything right in free agency. I love them, replacing their guards, their center. They add more weapons. They've done everything right. And Ben Johnson, they paid him a lot of money. Maybe that's it. Maybe money talks. But at the same time, it's still the Chicago Bears. It's still George McCaskey, a team that can't get out of its own way. We'll see if Ben Johnson was right to take that job, because he's been the number one candidate for 2 years, right? And he's been playing this game of waiting for the right opportunity. He viewed the Bears and Caleb Williams as that opportunity. We'll see how it pans out. If I'm Kliff Kingsbury, I'm kind of waiting for maybe a team that's year in and year out in contention with a proven quarterback, with the kind of personnel you're looking for, and most of all, strong ownership before I, go to that interview and take that job, because his stock isn't going to be dipping anytime soon.
Much more with Tyler Dunne in moments. The Nace Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers. It has been a Washington, D.C. institution for decades. If you feel that you've been wronged, if you think that you've been wronged but aren't sure, contact the Nace Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers, and schedule a no-obligation appointment. Call 202-902-7611 or visit WashingtonDCInjuryLawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. Founded in 1979, the Nace Law Group offers fierce advocacy on behalf of medical malpractice, birth injury, and personal injury victims. Led by the great Chris Nace, the Nace Law Group is focused on providing exceptional care and counsel for those who need such things the most. The Nace Law Group fights for what it believes in, you, your family, and your future. You with the Nace Law Group have an experienced advocate on your side. The Nace Law Group has secured millions of dollars in verdict and settlement amounts for clients to better enable them to care for themselves and their families. Call 202-902-7611 or visit WashingtonDCInjuryLawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. That's 202-902-7611 or WashingtonDCInjuryLawyers.com, and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers. We're talking with NFL writer Tyler Dunne of GoLongTD.com, for which he's written a really good piece on Kliff Kingsbury. You in the piece make the point that Kingsbury could prove to be like a lot of guys in that his second stint as an NFL head coach is a lot more successful than his first stint, with Bill Belichick being the ultimate example of that.
That's the other variable that we probably don't look at nearly enough, us in the media, fans, anybody on the outside. It's like you can learn something by going through filth, by going through losing seasons. And in Belichick's case, he's obviously the ultimate extreme example of this, but it's hilarious to go back and look at some of the coverage around Bill Belichick with the Cleveland Browns. There was a story referring to him as Beavis and Belichick, and just some real nasty stuff, not just locally, like national stories. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Houston Chronicle, he was a dunce. He was a dolt. Nobody wanted to work with this guy or for this guy. And he wasn't just this mad scientist, right? The image around Bill Belichick in the 90s was so different than it is now. Maybe it's kind of taken a new twist and turn now as he dates women less than a third of his age, but that's another conversation. But his life as a coach was in one place in the 90s, and he needed a second chance. He got that second chance. I mean, even there with New England, it started pretty bad. I think he was 5-13 before Mo Lewis knocked out Drew Bledsoe. Tom Brady gets thrown in, and then everything changes. And that's kind of the other part of it too, is you're going to learn something from 3-4 seasons as a head coach the first time around that you're going to take with you in your second job. But maybe even more important than that, Al, like, what is that head coach quarterback pairing? And how does that dynamic feed off each other? Where, like, Belichick is a drill sergeant, Tom Brady is the 6th round pick, 199 overall, out to prove everybody wrong. Yes, sir. No, sir. I'll do whatever you want me to do. I mean, Belichick is ripping him apart in film sessions, like not just his second, third year, for a long time. And Brady just took it. So if Brady's going to take it, and you're one of the other 52 players in that locker room, you're going to take it. I mean, this is somebody on those Patriot teams that was telling me this, a veteran. He saw it up close. Like, this dynamic is wild. And he was with Brady later in his career, and Brady is still getting his butt chewed out by Belichick in these sessions. So that dynamic worked. Like, the Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes dynamic works for other reasons. Right now, the Kliff Kingsbury, Jane Daniels dynamic, I know it's offensive coordinator, quarterback, it works. And however it does, like that, it's a chemistry experiment. Personality's got to match a certain way. You got to find that combination if you're going to win a Super Bowl.
Are you bullish on the Commanders for this coming season?
100%, man. But it's a tough division. Like, if Philly is a juggernaut, what they have 1 through 53 is unbelievable. I mean, I was just chatting with somebody in their front office, like, trying to figure it out. Like, how in the hell are you guys able to pay everybody? Right? You talk to any other general manager, it's like, we can't do this because we paid the quarterbacker. We can't do that because we loaded up on, like, somebody's up for a contract. They believe in that player. They get it done. They get ahead of the market. They keep drafting really well. They reward their own. Saquon Barkley, they have to pay Saquon Barkley this offseason. They did. That sends a good message in the locker room. It's a well-oiled machine, and when that offense gets rolling, I mean, it's like a runaway freight train. They get to 4th and 1. It's a tush push, and they just kind of keep moving along. So it's going to be tough to get past Philly. And I'd imagine that's Kliff Kingsbury's charge of this offseason, is figuring out a way to move the ball, score points, have success over the course of a 4-quarter game against this juggernaut. So yes, I'm definitely bullish on the Commanders, but I don't know. You tell me, like, what is the key to getting past the Philadelphia Eagles, a team that just ate up the greatest quarterback of our time and puked him out in Patrick Mahomes?
That was something. The Commanders' defense needs to be better. I do think that the overall roster has been upgraded this offseason, but the Philadelphia Eagles do still have the better roster. I think you have to concede that. Your Substack page is very impressive. GoLongTD.com. Lots of NFL features and columns. You have a podcast on your Substack. You have more than 27,000 subscribers. A lot of great content these days is in non-traditional media. What was your thought process in launching GoLongTD.com?
Ever since I started covering the NFL back in 2010, 2011, the Green Bay Packers beat at the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, then on to the Buffalo News covering the Bills, Bleacher Report for 4 years, and then launching Go Long. Like, every step of the way, I've kind of gravitated toward human interest stories, whether it's player profiles, just sitting down with a guy over dinner. Everybody's happy when they're eating food, right? I try to make that the setting for these player profiles. But there's a real side to pro football, a raw side to pro football that is kind of neglected, in my opinion, in the mainstream. Sad. I mean, I grew up reading Sports Illustrated, these long form features, and it's just, whether it's newspapers or magazines, it's kind of going the way of the dodo. But I feel like there's still a hunger, a thirst, a desire for learning about this sport beyond a press conference, beyond whatever poll-tested slop is kind of thrown out there by the teams themselves. And that's what we try to bring to the forefront through those profiles, through kind of deep dives on the inner workings of teams. I did something on Dan Quinn and kind of how he transformed the Commanders ahead of the playoff run last year. People want to check it out too. So yeah, I guess that's the compass, is like taking people behind the curtain, get to the sport and the real and the raw. That's what the fans deserve. They're paying these insane prices to watch a game, let alone physically go to a game. I feel like that's what fans deserve. And well, hey, if you want to subscribe, that's my pitch, right? $8 a month, and we'll give you everything you deserve, or do the best we can to do that.
Excellent. Well, congrats on your success, NFL writer Tyler Dunne of GoLongTD.com. Tyler, thanks. All the best.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on, man.
Man, Kliff Kingsbury, how good does the Commanders hiring him as offensive coordinator in February 2024 now look? I mean, he has done such a good job with Jaden Daniels and the Commanders offense, and Kingsbury doing such a good job with Daniels continues Kingsbury's impressive history with young quarterbacks. Kliff Kingsbury was the University of Houston's co-offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach for the 2011 season. Houston's QB1 for that season was 2019 Redskins quarterback Case Keenum, who had a monster 2011 season for Houston. Kingsbury was Texas A&M offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach for the 2012 season. Texas A&M's QB1 for the 2012 season was a redshirt freshman named Johnny Manziel, who became the first freshman ever to win the Heisman Trophy. Kingsbury, as mentioned, was Texas Tech head coach when Patrick Mahomes was at Texas Tech. Heck, even with the Cardinals, yes, there ended up being problems between Kingsbury and Kyler Murray, but Kingsbury got some very good production out of Murray. Kyler Murray, over his first 3 NFL regular seasons, 2019 through 2021, had the following rankings among qualified NFL quarterbacks in ESPN's total QBR. 2019, number 15, 2020, number 14, 2021, number 7. Not bad. Hey, the first day of summer is this Friday, June 20th. Happy summer. And know that if you live in Northern Virginia, you can count on Nova Fireplace and Stove for whatever your outdoor living needs may be. Nova Fireplace and Stove offers custom outdoor fireplaces, outdoor kitchens, grills, fire pits, and patio heaters. Nova Fireplace and Stove offers free in-home estimates for Northern Virginia residents for outdoor kitchens and gas lines. If you live in Northern Virginia and want to increase the look, feel, and value of your home via high-level outdoor living, contact Nova Fireplace and Stove, which is offering a special deal for listeners of the Al Galdi podcast. Call 571-513-3803 or visit NovaFireplaceandStove.com and tell Nova Fireplace and Stove that Al Galdi sent you. You do that, you get $50 off any fireplace service before September 1st. This includes cleaning, safety inspection, tune-up, and diagnostic work. Also, Nova Fireplace and Stove offers generators, car charging stations, patio pavers, and water heater replacement/repair. Nova Fireplace and Stove has been around for 2+ decades and is outstanding. It is family owned. It is a 5-star dealer. It is expanding its showroom in Woodbridge, Virginia to include a new outdoor showroom section. Call 571-513-3803. Asked to speak to Stuart Moore. He's the general manager. He's a big Commanders fan. He's a loyal listener of this podcast. And make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. Also visit NovaFireplaceandStove.com to check out customer reviews. 571-513-3803 or NovaFireplaceandStove.com and tell Nova Fireplace and Stove that Al Galdi sent you. You do that, you get $50 off any fireplace service before September 1st.
Yo, it's D-Lo. I'm partnering with Ro. Women, y'all feel that? It's sexy. But if you're stressing about your performance, it throws you off. That's why I rock with Ro Sparks. Ro Sparks dissolve under your tongue and hit fast so you're ready when the moment pops off. You feel like a superhero. It's satisfying your partner. That's key. Ro Sparks help you last longer, stay fuller, and keep the whole vibe right. With Prescribe, new patients get $15 off their first order. Hit up ro.co/backyard and to see if Ro Sparks are right for you. That's ro.co/backyard and see if Ro Sparks are right for you.
Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved. Do not undergo FDA safety effectiveness or manufacturing review. For full safety information, go to ro.co/safety-info.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
So it is time to have an open and honest conversation about the Nationals' rebuild. The rebuild started with their fire sale in late July 2021. We're now in the middle of June 2025, and the truth is that the rebuild is not working. Now, that can change. Nothing is set in stone. But right now, at this point in time, the rebuild is not working. What is happening with the Nats is troubling, and things over the weekend got ugly. Although we on Sunday evening got some big news. The Nats on Sunday evening announced having optioned outfielder Robert Hassel III and infielder Jose Tena to AAA Rochester, and the reported corresponding roster moves will be the Nats promoting their top position player prospect, third baseman Brady House, and outfielder Dalen Lyle from Rochester. We'll see if these moves help, but the Nats over the weekend got swept in 3 games against the National League East worst Miami Marlins in Nationals Park. Friday evening, a wild game, an 11-9 loss to the Marlins in a game that included a 2-hour, 14-minute rain delay. The two teams in this game combined for 20 runs, 33 hits, 7 walks, and a hit by pitch. Saturday afternoon, a 4-3 loss to the Marlins despite the Nats scoring 2 runs in the bottom of the 9th. And Sunday afternoon, a 3-1 loss to the Marlins to complete a 3-game sweep to the lowly Marlins. The indignity of the Nats being swept at home by the lowly Marlins now is a reality. The Nats now have lost 8 consecutive games. The Nats now are at a new low point in MLB's 2025 regular season, 11 games below 500, 30-41 with a run differential of -63. This is season number 5 of the Nats rebuild. My hope was that the Nats last season would bust out of their rebuild. They instead had a 71-win regular season for a second consecutive season, and the Nats in this regular season are 30-41 with a run differential of -63. Rebuilds should not take this long, and rebuilds should show a lot more progress than this rebuild is showing. The Nats rebuild isn't working. The number one problem for the Nats right now is the offense. The offense in this month of June has been really bad. The Nats, since scoring at least 9 runs in each of 4 consecutive games from May 28th through May 31st, have totaled just 31 runs over 13 games. The offense was good in the 11-9 loss to the Marlins on Friday evening. The Nats in that game totaled 9 runs, 16 hits, and 2 walks, and went 5 for 13 with runners in scoring position. The 16 hits were a home run, a double, and 14 singles. The Nats scored 5 runs in the bottom of the 7th. But the Nats over the final 2 games of the series totaled just 4 runs and just 13 hits, which were 4 doubles and 9 singles. The Nats over the final 2 games of the series did draw 10 walks. That was good, but the Nats over the final 2 games of the series went a combined 2 for 19 with runners in scoring position. And now we get to the ugliness. During Nats manager Davey Martinez's post-game press conference on Saturday afternoon, had this exchange between Nats insider Spencer Nussbaum of the Washington Post and Martinez.
When you look at the offense as a whole, I know you guys haven't produced like you wanted to this month. For you, how much of that is on the players, on coaching?
It's never on coaching. Never on coaching. Okay, coaches work their asses off every single day. You know, we're not going to finger point here and say it's coaches. It's never on the coaches. Okay, they work hard. The message is clear. All the work is done prior. So sometimes they got to go out there and they got to play the game. It's always been about the players. Always. I played this game a long time. Never once have I blamed the coach for anything. I mean, we worked our asses off to get better. They gave us information, and we used it. So these guys understand what the game is, man. These coaches, I never had such a group of coaches that worked as hard as they do. I mean, they're here freaking diligently. They go over everything. They sit with players every day. These coaches, they work their asses off. So, and I know every coach's staff is like that. So, sometimes, and the players know. Sometimes, you got to put the onus on the players. They got to go out there and they got to play the game and play the game the right way. We can't hit for them. We can't catch the balls for them. We can't pitch for them. We can't throw strikes for them. They got to do that.
All right. So Davey Martinez, quote, "It's never on coaching, never on coaching. It's never on the coaches. It's always been about the players, always," end quote. Davey Martinez, during his sessions with reporters, so often says so little of note that he said what he said on Saturday afternoon really stood out. And while his overall point that the majority of the onus is on the players and not on the coaches was correct, the idea being that the players matter more than the coaches, that generally speaking is true. But how he said what he said was not good. He threw the players under the bus. He seemingly absolved himself and his coaching staff of any blame. That was such a bad look. That was a dereliction of duty in terms of leadership, especially considering that there are very real, very legitimate questions about the Nats coaching right now. Davey Martinez, in saying, quote, "It's never on coaching, never on coaching, it's never on the coaches, it's always been about the players, always," end quote, came off as very defensive of his coaching staff and very sensitive toward criticism of the coaching staff, almost like this was one last desperate public stand before major change takes place. My understanding is that this postgame presser happened after a lengthy postgame meeting between Davey Martinez and Nats president of baseball operations, Mike Rizzo. Now, they often do talk after Nats games, but after this particular game, you wonder what was said and how what was said was said. And speaking of Mike Rizzo, you think about what Davey Martinez said during that postgame presser on Saturday afternoon, him putting the blame for the offensive struggles on the players. That was indirectly a shot at Mike Rizzo, because who acquired these players? Mike Rizzo. And that aspect of what Davey Martinez said was especially interesting to me. Davey Martinez on Saturday evening and Sunday got crushed for saying what he said during that postgame press conference on Saturday afternoon. The comments were all over social media, and Nats insider Andrew Golden of the Washington Post, he in a piece that came out on Sunday evening had this, quote, "Multiple people familiar with the situation who spoke on the condition of anonymity said the players took notice of Martinez's comments. One person said players were, quote, shocked, dismayed, and pissed, end quote. Before Sunday's game, members of the Nationals front office staff, including general manager Mike Rizzo, were around and chatting with players, which is atypical, end quote." This was Davey Martinez during his pregame session with reporters on Sunday on how things are between him and his players, and then you'll hear multiple follow-up exchanges.
They're great. I talked to a lot of them already. They say that, hey, it wasn't on them, right? And my comments was nothing about them. They know that. They read through it, and like I said, I talked to them about it, and they're all good. They want to win today. The biggest thing is we want to win today. The clubhouse is about as good as it's ever been. I mean, these guys are stuck together. We went through this before. We've lost 7 or 8 before, but we got to stick together. All of us, 26 players, all the coaches, staff, everybody.
So you say it's not good. You say it wasn't about them.
It was never about them, right? I said I never mentioned anything about players, right? I appreciate those players. I played. I understand how hard this game is. And they know that. So it's a difficult game, and these guys are out there trying hard. We got to do little things, as I always talk about. We start doing little things, we'll start winning some of these games.
So if it was about them, who was it about? Who was it about?
They asked me about the coaches. You put the blame on the coaches. No, I don't.
When you say that the clubhouse is as good as it's ever been, why is that?
Because these guys are stuck together. I mean, they've stuck together through thick and thin. They know that we have an opportunity to win every day, And I love that about him. Like I said, if they didn't believe in that, the comebacks like we've had, even though we fell short, you wouldn't see that. And these guys play hard for 27 outs.
All right, so Davey Martinez right there said that he, in his comments during his postgame press conference on Saturday afternoon, quote, never mentioned anything about players, end quote. Yeah, you did. Davey Martinez, during his postgame presser on Saturday afternoon, literally said, quote, it's never on coaching, it's never on the coaches. It's always been about the players, always, end quote. He said, quote, it's always been about the players, always, end quote. Right there was Davey Martinez mentioning his players. I like Davey Martinez. I do not think that he's some awful manager, but come on. Don't say that you, quote, never mentioned anything about players, end quote, when you absolutely mentioned the players. Again, quote, it's always been about the players, always, end quote. James Wood, one of those players, he is not having a good month of June. Now, James Wood is far from the Nats' biggest problem, but he off his monster May is not having a good June. Now, Wood did have a good game in Game 1 against the Marlins. Wood in the 11-9 loss to the Marlins on Friday evening as the Nats starting left fielder and number 2 batter went 3 for 5 with a 2-run homer, a 2-run double, and a single. But Wood in the 4-3 loss to the Marlins on Saturday afternoon as the Nats starting left fielder and number 3 batter went 0 for 5. He in the bottom of the 9th came up with the bases loaded and 2 outs, but he popped out to end the game. And Wood in the 3-1 loss to the Marlins on Sunday afternoon as the Nats starting left fielder and number 2 batter went 0 for 2 with 2 walks. So James Wood for this month of June has an OPS of just .669. But again, he is far from the Nats' biggest problem. The Nats' defense is a big problem. How about what happened in the 4-3 loss to the Marlins on Saturday afternoon? So reliever Eduardo Salazar allowed 1 run unearned in 2/3 of an inning. He in the top of the 8th allowed an unearned run on 2 singles and then a 2-out fielding error by second baseman Luis Garcia Jr., who in shallow right field dropped a routine pop-up off the bat of Javier Sanoja. Garcia was drifting back and attempted to make the catch in over-the-shoulder fashion. So you could argue that the Nats right fielder, Alex Cole, should have made the attempt at the catch because coming in is easier than going out. But that obviously was a play that should have been made. I mean, this was a routine pop-up, and this was certainly not some, impossible catch for Garcia to make. Luis Garcia Jr. is having a horrendous defensive season. He, for this regular season, as of games through Saturday, was dead last among 142 qualified players in MLB in Sports Info Solutions defensive runs saved at -14. You look at 142 qualified players in the majors, Garcia dead last in defensive runs saved at -14. That's how much of a liability he has been defensively at a key defensive position in second base this season. C.J. Abrams did have a good series. The 11-9 loss to the Marlins on Friday evening. Abrams as the Nats starting shortstop and number 1 batter, 3 for 6 with 3 singles. The 4-3 loss to the Marlins on Saturday afternoon. Abrams as the Nats starting shortstop and number 1 batter, 2 for 4 with 2 singles and an intentional walk. And the 3-1 loss to the Marlins on Sunday afternoon. Abrams as the Nats starting shortstop and number 3 batter went 1 for 3 with a double. But James Wood, C.J. Abrams, and starting pitcher Mackenzie Gore are the only regular Nats players truly having good seasons. And all 3 of those guys were acquired how? In the mega trade of outfielder Juan Soto and first baseman Josh Bell to the San Diego Padres on August 2nd, 2022. What was 2022 MLB trade deadline day. A big part of the problem with this Nats rebuild is that there still are very few signs that the things that forced the Nats to engage in this rebuild in the first place, bad drafting and bad player development, are better. If not for this, once in a generation trade of Juan Soto, where would the Nats be right now? The Nats got swept by the Marlins over the weekend despite the Nats starting pitching being good in 2 of the 3 games. And now the 11-9 loss to the Marlins on Friday evening, Mitchell Parker was bad. He allowed 6 runs in 3 1/3 innings. He gave up 8 hits, which were 2 home runs, 2 doubles, and 4 singles. He issued 3 walks. He recorded 3 strikeouts. He threw a lot of balls, 87 pitches, threw just 48 strikes versus 39 balls. But the 4-3 loss to the Marlins on Saturday afternoon, Trevor Williams was good. He officially allowed 2 runs in 5 1/3 innings. He gave up 6 hits, which were a double and 5 singles. He had 3 strikeouts versus 1 walk. He threw a lot of strikes, 80 pitches, 55 strikes versus just 25 balls. And the 3-1 loss to the Marlins on Sunday afternoon, Mackenzie Gore was not at his best, but he still was good. Gore allowed 2 runs in 6 innings with 5 strikeouts versus 1 walk. He gave up 8 hits, which were a home run, a double, and 6 singles. He issued a wild pitch. He threw 97 pitches, 60 strikes versus 37 balls. Gore allowed a run in each of the first 2 innings, but then tossed 4 scoreless innings. Mackenzie Gore now for this regular season, 15 starts, ERA of 2.89, whip of 1.15, 119 strikeouts, ranking number 1 in the majors. Strikeouts per 9 innings of 12.26, ranking number 1 among all qualified pitchers in the majors. And the Nats bullpen in the Nats getting swept in 3 games by the Marlins over the weekend was not good. The 11-9 loss to the Marlins on Friday evening, 4 Nats relievers combined to allow 5 runs in 5 2/3 innings. Jackson Rutledge allowed 2 runs in 1 2/3 innings. He at the top of the 4th threw 5 pitches to induce a 6-4-3 double play for the 2nd to 3rd outs, and then actually returned to pitch after the 2-hour, 14-minute rain delay. But he at the top of the 5th allowed 2 runs on a 2-out walk and then 3 consecutive 2-out singles. But Brad Lord tossed 2 scoreless innings with 2 called strikeouts. The killer outing from a Nats reliever in this game came from Jose A. Ferrer. He at the top of the 8th allowed 3 runs on a walk and 3 singles, and he later in the inning gave up another single. Kyle Finnegan tossed a scoreless top of the 9th. The 4-3 loss to the Marlins on Saturday afternoon, 5 Nats relievers officially combined to allow 2 runs, 1 earned in 3 2/3 innings. So Brad Lord officially allowed 1 run in 1 inning, but he at the top of the 6th to the first batter he faced gave up a 1-out opposite field RBI single by Eric Wagaman through the right side of the infield on an 0-2 pitch for a 2-1 Marlins lead, and Lord in the top of the 7th gave up a 1-out solo homer by Jesus Sanchez to right field for a 3-1 Marlins lead. Jose A. Ferrer, he in the top of the 7th, faced 2 batters and got 2 outs. Eduardo Salazar, as mentioned, allowed 1 run unearned in 2/3 of an inning. Zach Brixey in the top of the 8th faced 1 batter and got 1 out, which was a swinging strikeout. And Ryan Ludis in his Nats debut tossed a perfect top of the 9th. The Nats on Saturday morning announced having placed reliever Andrew Chafin on the 15-day injured list retroactive to June 11th due to a right hamstring strain, and the corresponding roster move was the Nats recalling Ryan Ludis from AAA Rochester. The Nats on June 10th claimed Ludis off waivers from the Los Angeles Dodgers and optioned him to AAA Rochester. And the 3-1 loss to the Marlins on Sunday afternoon, 3 Nats relievers combined to allow 1 run in 3 innings. Ryan Ludis in the top of the 7th allowed a run on 2 bunt singles, a walk, and an RBI sac fly, and he then issued another walk. But Jackson Rutledge tossed a scoreless top of the 8th, and Cole Henry tossed a perfect top of the 9th with 2 strikeouts. Some happier Nats news, because I think we all could use that right now. Former Nats catcher Wilson Ramos, he on Sunday morning signed a ceremonial 1-day contract with the Nats and officially retired as a member of the Nats. Wilson Ramos, the man known as the Buffalo. The Nats got Wilson Ramos via one of the great trades by Mike Rizzo, July 29th, 2010. The Nats traded closer Matt Capps to the Minnesota Twins for 2 prospects, including Ramos. Ramos played for the Nats in the 2010 through 2016 regular seasons. He over 578 regular season games for the Nats, accumulated 10.6 wins above replacement per Baseball Reference. That works out to a 162-game average of 2.97. So he was a 3-win catcher for the Nats in terms of his 162-game average. He did miss a lot of time due to injury, but he was a very key player for the Nats in their 2016 playoff season. Ramos in the 2016 regular season, 3.1 WAR for Baseball Reference. So a salute to the Buffalo. Next up for the Nats is a 4-game series against the MLB worst Colorado Rockies at Nationals Park. The Rockies are beyond bad. They, for this regular season, are an MLB worst 14-57 with an MLB worst run differential of minus 203. The Nats should pummel the Rockies, but of course, off what we just saw from the Nats against the Marlins, who knows what'll happen between the Nats and Rockies. Game 1, Monday evening at 6:45, Jake Irvin will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 2, Tuesday evening at 6:45, Michael Soroka will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 3, Wednesday evening at 6:45, Mitchell Parker will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 4, Thursday afternoon at 1:05, Trevor Williams will be the Nats starting pitcher. The Orioles, since their 16-34 start to MLB's 2025 regular season, now are 14-6. What this means, who knows? Where this is going, who knows? But maybe, just maybe, there is hope for the Orioles season just yet. The O's over the weekend swept 3 games against the Los Angeles Angels at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Friday night, a 2-0 win over the Angels in a game that featured a total rain delay time of 2 hours and 16 minutes, with the start of the game being delayed and then an in-game delay. The actual game lasted for just 2 hours and 21 minutes. Saturday, a 6-5 win over the Angels, and Sunday afternoon, an 11-2 win over the Angels, as the O's, Joe Angel, isn't that appropriate, again, we're in the win column.
And the Orioles again in the win column.
Yes, Joe, the win column. The O's in MLB's 2025 regular season now are 30-40. Third worst record in the American League. The O's in this 3-game sweep of the Angels totaled 7 home runs. So the 2-0 win over the Angels on Friday night, the O's totaled just 2 runs and just 6 hits and went 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position. But the O's did draw 3 walks, and 3 of the 6 hits were extra base hits, as the O's had 2 homers, a double, and 3 singles. The 6-5 win over the Angels on Saturday, the O's totaled 6 runs, 11 hits, and 2 walks, and went 2 for 8 with runners in scoring position. The 11 hits were 2 home runs, 2 doubles, and 7 singles. In the 11-2 win over the Angels on Sunday afternoon, the O's totaled 11 runs, 12 hits, and 3 walks, and went 4 for 7 with runners in scoring position. The 12 hits were 3 home runs, 3 doubles, and 6 singles. The O's did all of this despite striking out 14 times. A big reason for the O's playing better lately is that they're getting healthier. Now, there over the weekend was some bad Orioles injury news. We on Saturday afternoon learned that the O's had shut outfielder Tyler O'Neill back down and returned him from his minor league rehab assignment, and that he had received an injection in his left shoulder AC joint. Not good. O'Neill has been on the 10-day injured list since May 18th, retroactive to May 16th due to a left shoulder impingement. O'Neill was on the 10-day injured list from April 26th, retroactive to April 24th to May 9th. This due to neck inflammation. The O's this past December 10th announced having agreed with Tyler O'Neill as a free agent on a 3-year contract with a player opt-out after 1 season. The contract reportedly is a 3-year, $49.5 million contract. Richest free agent contract and the first multi-year contract that the O's gave a free agent since Mike Elias became the Orioles executive vice president and general manager on November 16th, 2018. However, O'Neill came to the O's with a massive injury history. He came to the O's having been on a disabled list/injured list 14 times over his 7 major league seasons, 2018 through 2024. And now here we are with his 2025 season having been really ravaged by injury. But the O's on Saturday afternoon announced having reinstated catcher Gary Sanchez from the 10-day injured list. He had been on that since April 28th due to right wrist inflammation, and Sanchez homered in each of the final 2 games of this series. The 6-5 win over the Angels on Saturday, Sanchez as the Orioles starting DH and number 7 batter went 1 for 3 with a solo homer, and going back-to-back with Cedric Mullins. Mullins as the Orioles starting center fielder and number 6 batter went 2 for 4 with a 2-run homer and a single. He and Gary Sanchez hit back-to-back homers in a 3-run 6 for the O's to give them a 6-4 lead. In the 11-2 win over the Angels on Sunday afternoon, Sanchez as the Orioles starting catcher and number 5 batter went 2 for 4 with a grand slam and a single. Sanchez in an Orioles 4-run 7th had a 2-out grand slam to left center field for a 9-2 Orioles lead. Also homering on Sunday afternoon were Jordan Westburg and Ramon Urias. So Westburg, as the Orioles starting second baseman and number 1 batter, went 2 for 4 with a 2-run homer, a single, and a walk. Urias, as the Orioles starting third baseman and number 2 batter, went 2 for 5 with a 2-run homer and a double. Homering in the 2-0 win over the Angels on Friday night were Ryan O'Hearn and Ramon Laureano. O'Hearn, as the Orioles starting first baseman and number 4 batter, went 2 for 4 with a solo homer and a double. Laureano, as the Orioles starting right fielder and number 5 batter, went 1 for 3 with a solo homer and a walk. The O's swept the Angels over the weekend despite only getting one good outing from a starting pitcher. That outing came from Charlie Morton. The 2-0 win over the Angels on Friday night. The resurgence of Charlie Morton was back on. He was good for a third time in 4 starts. He tossed 5 scoreless innings with 10 strikeouts versus 1 walk. He gave up 5 hits, all of which were singles. He threw a lot of strikes, 78 pitches, 57 strikes versus just 21 balls. So the 6-5 win over the Angels on Saturday. Tomoyuki Sagano was not good. He allowed 3 runs in 4 2/3 innings. He gave up 6 hits, which were a home run, a double, and 4 singles. He issued 2 walks and 2 hit by pitches. He recorded 4 strikeouts. He threw 80 pitches, 46 strikes versus 34 balls. And the 11-2 win over the Angels on Sunday afternoon. The O's in this game went with an opener and reliever Scott Blewett, who officially allowed 2 runs in 2 2/3 innings. The starting pitcher Cade Povich then came into the game. He officially tossed 3 2/3 scoreless innings with 4 strikeouts versus 1 walk. He gave up 3 hits, all of which were singles. He did issue a run-scoring wild pitch. He threw 57 pitches, 36 strikes versus 21 balls. And more good work from the Orioles bullpen, which lately has been really good. The 2-0 win over the Angels on Friday night. 4 Orioles relievers combined for 4 scoreless innings. The 6-5 win over the Angels on Saturday. 5 Orioles relievers combined to allow 2 runs in 4 1/3 innings. The 11-2 win over the Angels on Sunday afternoon. 3 Orioles relievers combined for 2 2/3 scoreless and hitless innings. Sir Anthony Dominguez, he came into the game at the top of the 7th with the bases loaded, 1 out, and the O's holding a 5-2 lead, and he generated back-to-back strikeouts for the 2nd and 3rd outs. What a job by Dominguez. Andrew Kittredge tossed a perfect top of the 8th, and Yadier Cadeau tossed a scoreless and hitless top of the 9th. During the post-game press conference of O's interim manager Tony Mansolino on Sunday afternoon, had this exchange between O's insider Rich Dubroff of BaltimoreBaseball.com and Mansolino.
When you took over, you said, well, gee, if the ball club can get within 10 games under 500 soon, then, maybe things will start happening. Is it working out sort of the way that you envisioned?
Well, then we quickly dropped to 18 games under 500, I think. So, I don't know what I envisioned. For me, it was just try to get the players back to being themselves, whatever that entails, right? So I feel like as we watch them these last few days, it feels like, Westberg kind of looks like Westberg, Gary kind of looks like Gary, Gunner's kind of looking like Gunner, so yeah, I mean, we're to 10 under. We got a long way to go, but we're kind of in it in a weird way. There's some belief in there, it's like now if we can get the 5 under, if you get the 5 under, then all of a sudden it's, eyes are open and you can kind of see it a little bit. So really happy to be where we're at, really happy with how we played. We got a really big challenge coming up on this road trip. And then when we come home, we got another challenge. And I feel like the schedule the rest of the way is just a gigantic challenge. So, but the way we're playing, if we keep it up, we're going to be just fine.
Yes, you are. Next up for the O's is a 7-game road trip beginning with a 4-game series at the Tampa Bay Rays. Game 1, Monday night at 7:35. Zach Eflin will be the Orioles starting pitcher. Game 2, Tuesday night at 7:35. Dean Kramer will be the Orioles starting pitcher. Game 3, Wednesday night at 7:35. The Orioles starting pitcher is to be announced. Game 4, Thursday night at 7:35. Charlie Morton will be the Orioles starting pitcher. And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Tuesday's show, episode 1096. We'll have plenty for you on the Commanders. Also on Tuesday's show, I'll talk Nationals and Orioles. The Nats are home to the Colorado Rockies Monday evening at 6:45 in Game 1 of a 4-game series. The O's are at the Tampa Bay Rays Monday night at 7:35 in Game 1 of a 4-game series. Have a great rest of your Monday, and I'll talk to you on Tuesday.
It's never on coaching. Never on coaching. Okay, coaches work their asses off every single day. We're not going to finger point here and say it's coaches. It's never on the coaches, okay?
Plan on flying? It's time to upgrade to a Real ID. Because in order to board domestic flights, your driver's license or state-issued ID must be a Real ID, or you'll need another acceptable form of identification. So don't wait. Find out how to get your Real ID at tsa.gov/Real ID. That's tsa.gov/Real ID, or visit your local DMV. And then you'll be cleared for takeoff.